Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it.
Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. Happy Friday, everyone. I'm Jenny Taft with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. How you guys doing today?
I'm doing great, Jenny. I am doing great. It is drizzling a little rain here up in Bel Air, but other than that, I am fine. I've been winning the debates. Everybody been blowing me up. Hey, you doing a number on Skip? I say, yep, I sure am.
Shannon, it is GOAT Day here on Undisputed, which means, fortunately, we don't have to talk about LeBron today. As usual, I have on my Lil Wayne chain, GOAT, on top of Jumpman, GOAT, and we're about to talk about GOAT Brady. Good luck, Shannon.
I'm going to send Lil Wayne a message after this. I don't know what he started with this GOAT on GOAT, but it needs to stop immediately.
I personally love it, and both of you guys looking great, sounding great, confident today. And Skip mentioned it, but we are going to start things off by talking about a different GOAT, because I'm in the mood to talk a little Tom Brady and the Patriots. According to multiple reports, the Patriots did not know Tom Brady was planning on leaving New England until the night before. Well, it was also reported that the Patriots were willing to match the Buccaneers' offer a while back. So Shannon, I start with you. Do you believe it was Brady's choice to leave New England or Belichick's choice to move on from it?
Nope. This is revisionist history again, Jenny. What I'm starting to see, because I remember Skip Bayless told me something about when LeBron James had lost and his camp had put out he had to be sedated. Hogwash. They didn't know till the night before. Actually, they knew 3 years in advance when they did not extend him. You see what is happening here, and I like to equate this situation to a relationship because Coach Belichick and Tom Brady was in a 20-year relationship. Skip, just because you don't do the breaking up doesn't mean you didn't want this. Because guess what I did, Skip? If I don't come home, I come home at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. If every time I'm doing things sneaky and the girl ends up breaking up with me, you don't get to say, well, I broke up with him. I set the chain of events in motion. I was the one that was coming home at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I was the one that you kept hearing whispers about that I was seeing somebody else on the other side. And then all of a sudden you get the courage after I've done this for the last 3 years? Oh, no. Because what Brady did not want to break up, what Brady wanted was what I didn't give the girl, the commitment. They did not extend Tom Brady. Tom Brady wanted a commitment. They were unwilling to give him that. They could have made this thing work. All they had to do was extend Tom Brady. Tom Brady's happy. When they didn't do that, and we saw this at the beginning of the year, they gave him a little extra $8 million. He got $23 million, but no contract extension. Tom Brady is trying to rewrite history. I wanted out. I left. Well, if I keep on doing things to show you that I'm not interested, you should leave. And that's exactly what happened.
Shannon Sharpe, I hate to inform you of this, but I'm afraid you're wrong again about Tom Brady. I've been trying to explain to you this from the start was Tom Brady's choice to leave. Now that has been confirmed by another report from Ian Rappaport of NFL.com and NFL Network, who's saying that, A, the Patriots were holding out hope that when Brady visited Robert Kraft's house on that Monday night of free agent week, that they could talk him into, at least Robert Kraft could talk Tom into staying. That they were still holding out hope 2 days later when he began to talk seriously with Tampa. And once he was offered 2 years at $25 million a year, 2 years for $50 total million, that Robert Kraft, according to Ian Rappaport, was again willing to match the 2-year deal to keep Tom Brady in New England. So it sure sounds to me like Bill Belichick lost a second time. We know from the ESPN report of 3 years ago that Belichick really lost the first time when he wanted to go forward after the 2017 season, or it's during the 2017 season with Jimmy Garoppolo, that Kraft said, no, you're going to trade Jimmy G at the trade deadline. And we know Belichick basically gave him away out of spite to San Francisco. But here we're hearing now that Robert Kraft was not on Belichick's side. Again, do I think Belichick wanted Tom gone? Yes, I do. And to your point, do I think that Kraft was trying to play it down the middle to keep both sides happy by going year to year on the contract? Yes, I do. Do I think Brady ultimately was alienated by year to year? I do. But I remind you, Brady was the one who negotiated going into last season. You cannot franchise tag me going into 2020. So Brady was saying to them, I want to be able to cut ties. If it's my choice, it will be my choice to walk out the door, and you cannot stop me. And remember, just the other day, 2 days ago, Brady told Howard Stern that he was pretty sure he was going to leave going into last football season. And his bottom line to Howard Stern was, it was just time. The truth was the bridge had been burned to the ground between Belichick and Tom Brady. And it went back to as you know, Shannon, it started with Deflategate, when Bill Belichick actually called his own press conference on the Saturday ahead of Super Bowl week. And even went into, remember, he did his Mona Lisa veto speech about, he's referring to My Cousin Vinny, the Marisa Tomei character. And he was trying to tell everybody, I don't know as much about football as she knew about cars in the movie. Baloney, you know everything about football. And he was trying to say, ask my quarterback. I don't know anything about deflated footballs. No, Bill, you got busted the first time around for Spygate, got caught cold-bloodedly, cold-handed, red-handed, with the evidence in your hand, thanks to Eric Mangini, obviously your former assistant coach, who was then the Jets head coach, who blew the whistle on you. So you were already caught once, and I think you got caught twice with Deflategate. And then we go all the way into everything that started to unfold between Bill and Tom. You know all the rest of the story. And finally, it got to Brady decided, well, you cost me one Super Bowl by not playing Malcolm Butler, and you gave up 41 points while I was throwing for a playoff record 505. Then you cost me a number 2 seed and a bye last year in the final home game when you let Ryan Fitzpatrick go 80 yards for a touchdown in the last 3 minutes. And finally, as you said, Shannon, I think Brady looked at the roster and said, you just let it get old before our very eyes. And he said, I don't want to stay here. I can't win here. I can't win with a coach who doesn't want me here. So it was Tom Brady's decision to say, no, I'm going to Tampa Bay.
Skip, you said that he negotiated. The thing is that he wanted the contract extension. They said, this is what we'll do. We'll give you $8 million, but we're not adding years to it. Tom says, if I accept this $8 million, I want you not to have the ability to franchise me. Okay, Skip, if that's the case, why not after the season they extend Tom Brady if they want him as much as this report said they did? Why did they wait till I got to go? Because remember, Skip, they extended it a week, free agency. So in other words, you had a week extra to talk and negotiate. Why not give him the contract extension then? Why not after the 2017 season? Why not after 2018? Why did they not extend Tom Brady if they wanted Tom Brady as much as this report said they wanted Tom Brady? Because they didn't. Coach Belichick set the chain of events in motion. Skip, Coach Belichick was coming in at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning when she knew he wasn't at work. Coach Belichick was being seen around town with someone else that wasn't his girlfriend, and she knew this. She had enough. So, she broke up, but Coach Belichick wanted you to. Coach Belichick didn't want that on his resume to say, I cut Tom Brady, because at least he does have a little cover. Well, Tom left, and you and Ian Rappaport and everybody else putting it out there like they broke up. But nah. This chain of events was set in motion by one Bill Belichick. because it started in 2017 and they did not, because Skip, let me tell you what would have happened. Even though Tom Brady was really, really upset that they wanted to move forward with Jimmy Garoppolo, if they had extended Tom Brady after the 2017 season, you and I both know he would have gladly accepted. He would have put his name on the dotted line and he'd have played 3-4 more years in New England. But that's not what Coach Belichick wanted. And Mr. Kraft could have easily said, "No, we're not doing what year to year, Bill. We're giving it, if he wants 3 years, we're giving him 3 years. And if Tampa, we're not even getting to Tampa. We're doing 3 years, Tommy. We're going to do 3 years at $60 million, fully guaranteed." Bill Belichick said, "No, we're not." And Mr. Kraft says, "Okay, Billy." That's what he calls him, Billy. Billy, fine. You know, everybody knows that's how it played out. But Tom Brady wants to save face. Legacy doesn't mean anything, whatever.
So, by the way, Shannon, it sounds like you speak from experience about being out at 3 or 4 in the morning when you're supposed to be with somebody. I don't know. It just, you keep bringing that up like you know exactly how that feels.
See, you and Jenny always try to pin it on me. I'm just saying, Skip Bayless, you know what I do. I speak from personal experience. I know people that might have done that in the past.
Well, here's what I know. I know that Robert Kraft said after that fateful Monday night meeting, that was the first day of sort of informal, unofficial free agency. It started on Monday when you could start to have contact with each other's representatives. Tom Brady went to Robert Kraft's house, and Robert said the next couple of days that, "Hey, I thought we were going to have the same meeting we always have, where we kind of hash it out and figure it out, and that we would come to an agreement that we would go forward for another year." Again, when you get to age 42, I get it that the owner of the team is saying, well, let's go year to year just in case it doesn't go well next year. Maybe things go wrong. Maybe you get banged up. Maybe you sort of lose heart. Maybe you finally decide, I just don't want to do this anymore. So there's no reason to go for 2 more years. And Tom Brady was still willing to go 2 years. But Robert Kraft, once again, a lot of times in negotiations, if suddenly there's quote unquote another woman involved, you say, oh, wait, I'll do anything to keep you. And according to Ian Rappaport, Robert Kraft was willing then to go for 2 more years, guaranteed at $50 million. So that signals to me that no matter what Bill Belichick wanted, he lost again. And he should have lost because obviously Tom Brady is far more valuable than Bill Belichick ever hoped to be. And Robert Kraft knows that. Robert Kraft, remember what Dana White said? Oh, Robert Kraft badly wants to keep Tom Brady. He did. Again, in a best case scenario for 1 more year just to be sure. But if you're forced to because there's quote unquote another woman who wants Tom Brady, well, then he was willing to go 2 years and $50 million guaranteed. And I don't blame him because the joke is going to be on New England and ultimately on Robert Kraft for not being able to keep the GOAT, Tom Brady.
Skip, this is the contract. If Mr. Kraft wanted Tom Brady, when he comes before that first unofficial meeting, you say, here's Tom, here is 3 years, $60 million, fully guaranteed. If I want you, because here's the thing, Skip, again, when you tell her that, okay, I'm not going to do it anymore, anything that you've heard about me is not true, but I'm not going to come in at those hours of the morning, I'm going to put your mind at ease. Skip, she's already fed up. Tom Brady was fed up at that point. No, he's not going back to you and allow you because he was fed up. He's saying, if you wanted me as much as you're showing interest in me now, why didn't you do this 3 years ago? Skip, that's always the case. The person always wants you the most once someone else shows interest in you. That's how it works. If you want Skip, I've never become so popular. I ain't gonna lie to you, Skip, but I ain't never become so popular until I started working with you. And all the women that let me go years ago, they want your boy back. I said, nope. Skip told me not to come back. Skip said, keep your mind focused on this show, and I don't want you dealing with the women. I said, okay. So now, that's what happened with Tom Brady. Yes, we could have had Tom 3 years ago if we really wanted him, but we didn't. And it wasn't until, and Tom's like, I've had enough. I've had 20 years of y'all marginalizing me, Skip, because that's what it is. Because any other quarterback that's accomplished, they're throwing parades. They've already got a statue up of it. But Coach Belichick has minimized, marginalized, and sometimes been openly disrespectful. The man has 12 stitches in his hand, in the palm of his hand, on his throwing hand. And instead of you saying, hey, that was a gutsy performance, you say, well, he didn't have open heart surgery. I mean, what are we talking about here? Okay, Tom hears that. That man, again, Skip, that man got feelings. I understand you think he's a cyborg, but he's like, hold on, wait a minute. I got 12 stitches in my hand. I got them stitched up. I got them glued up. I'm going out there playing my tail off, and that's the kind of reception that's the kind of response I get. I didn't have open heart surgery? Okay. And then you still, no contract extension. I go to win the Super Bowl, no contract extension. Now, if I get an opportunity to get up out of here, I'm going to show you guys. But Skip, the chain of events had already been put in place by one Bill Belichick. So Tom had no choice but to move on because Bill had been blatantly and openly, there's only so much disrespect. I don't care who you are. I don't care how, a person that you think, you know what, sometimes enough is enough. And he's like, oh, man, that's the most laid-back person. And people look at Tom Brady as being laid-back, golly gee whiz. But even the most laid-back of people will reach a breaking point where they said enough is enough, 22s, I'm out.
Okay, I'm going to use one last, because you've been doing it, relationship analogy here. Here's what happened in reverse that you can't see from your vantage point. Remember, Tom Brady was in a 20-year relationship, and last year he woke up and looked at who he's been with for 20 years, and he decided, wait a second, what I'm with is getting old and fat and ugly because the cupboard was bare. Am I right? Because Tom Brady is looking at what's left in New England, and it's old and fat and ugly, and he's saying, what is this guy doing? The great Bill Belichick, regarded as the GOAT coach, had let his roster, even according to the Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe, get old right before your very eyes. And when he went to make a move at the trade deadline last year, he went for an older Mohamed Sanu that even the great Shannon Sharpe concluded quickly, he just can't play anymore. He can't separate. It looks like he's running with the proverbial piano on his back. So that's all Belichick could do to help Tom Brady. Obviously, AB flamed out quickly. Then all of a sudden, Belichick cuts Josh Gordon. And I'm not saying that was the wrong move, but he did have a little bit of success before he flamed out in Seattle. And you look around, and what's left? There's no Gronk. It's the worst collection. It's the worst tight end unit in the NFL. Your only go-to receiver by the end of the year was broken down, beat up Julian Edelman with 3 different injuries, one in his shoulder that was going to require surgery. He led the league in drops. They were second in the league as a receiving core in drops. They were ranked 23rd as receivers by Pro Football Focus. N'Keal Harry, I thought, was going to be a stud. He was gone for 8 games, and when he came back, I didn't see stud, at least yet. I know it's unfair because he was a raw rookie, but I don't think Tom Brady loved what he saw from N'Keal Harry. So he's looking at next year saying, I can't win there. And he's looking at another woman, to use your analogy, down south under the sun, in the sunshine, on the ocean in Tampa, at least on the Gulf of Mexico. And he's saying, wait a minute, they're much younger and much prettier because I'm going to have 4 weapons, all better than any single weapon I had in New England. So it's Tom Brady's choice to say, I want to keep winning Super Bowls. Belichick or no Belichick, I just want to win. I want to compete at the highest level. And he's not holding up his end of the bargain in New England. He's not being the GOAT team builder anymore because we got nothing. And what has the GOAT team builder done in free agency? Next to nothing. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know where they're going in New England. It looks like they're dead in the water. I know Belichick could have 5 aces up his sleeve. We'll see what he does with the 23rd overall pick in the first round of the draft. But I can't see any more than 8 and 8-ish. And I believe Tom Brady saw sabotage-ish last year where he's thinking maybe Belichick's trying to do me in so I can't win and I'll want to leave. And Belichick probably got his wish. But it wasn't his doing. He wasn't, so to speak, pulling that trigger. Robert Kraft was trying to keep Tom Brady, much to the chagrin of the GOAT coach. So I believe Belichick lost twice to Robert Kraft, but it was Tom Brady's call to say, sorry, as you said, 22s. Deuces, I'm out.
Skip Bayless, I've never been married. But I played 14 years in the NFL, and I know guys that have been married. And some have been caught being dirty. Now, when you get caught being dirty, you're at the mercy of the person that catches you. Now, I've known there have been big body Mercedes being purchased. I know there have been 6, 7 carat diamond rings being purchased. Okay, they stay. Coach Belichick got caught being dirty with Jimmy G. Now, to make Tom Brady stay, give him that contract extension. He didn't get the contract extension. 22 out again. Skip Bayless, I'm telling you how this thing works. Tom cannot write a narrative that's going to fit, that's going to say, Coach Belichick wanted me and I kissed Coach Belichick goodbye. Because we know that's not true. We know Tom wanted to play all of his years. But Skip, he said, who is his hero? Who was his favorite childhood player growing up? And I told you, if he's not careful, he'll be just like his childhood hero. I guess Joe Montana really wanted to go to Kansas City, right, Skip? That's what he really wanted. No, he did not. He wanted to finish in San Francisco. They said, no, it's not happening. Steve Young is going to be our quarterback moving forward. Well, I don't know if Jared Stidham is going to be Steve Young, but Coach Belichick says, I want him to be my quarterback moving forward. Tom Brady says, enough is enough. I'm out. That's how it happened. Ta-da!
Okay, but wait a second. The Patriots didn't trade Tom Brady to Tampa, obviously. It was of his own volition. I choose them. He could have chosen the LA Chargers. I believe he could have chosen any one of 6 or 7 other teams that were interested in him, but he chose Tampa, shocking the world. But the more I look at it, the more I realize why he chose Tampa. I think it was a great move. And he did say, go ahead.
I know why he chose Tampa, too. Because the lie that he told the other day, Jenny, about he didn't care about his legacy. If you don't care about your legacy, Cincinnati needs a quarterback. There's a few other teams that need quarterbacks. But you care about your legacy because you went to a team that have offensive weapons galore. You went to a team that has a head coach that's an offensive mastermind. So in actuality, you do care about your legacy. Because if you didn't, because there are several other teams that do not have the offensive firepower that Tampa Bay possess. And we saw something last year. Jenny and I, you and I, we talked about it. You remember Tom Brady went over 1,000 career yards rushing. And what did he do at the end of the game? He kneeled down and then pointed to the official. That's the spot. I don't want to be 999. I want to make sure it stays at 1,000. Skip Bayless, you need to miss me. You need to miss me with all this old Tom Brady stuff because it's revisionist history.
It's a joke.
I've been there the whole while. Watched all 20 years of this man's career. As a matter of fact, my last Pro Bowl in the NFL was Tom Brady's first Pro Bowl after the 2001 season. Peyton Manning, Tom Brady were my quarterbacks.
There you go again, trying to put yourself in the same sentence with the GOAT. And Shannon, I'm sorry, as great as you were, it doesn't work. And what you're missing is he chose the Succaneers. He went to the worst franchise in the history of sports. As far as winning percentage right now, nobody in any sport is any worse than the Succaneers. And he said, oh, I'll go do that. He wanted a great challenge at age 42, and he's taking on a great challenge. They were 7-9 last year.
If you don't mind me asking, where is the Succaneers offensive skill people? Where would they rank in the NFL? Pro Football Focus. Where do they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Brait, and O.J. Howard? Where are they ranked? Okay, as a franchise, they might suck. But offensively, they were number 2 in scoring. Jameis led the league in passing. Still, Skip, stop this notion. You know better than that.
Well, all I know for sure is I now know for sure why you never got married.
I was touring my career like you, Skip.
And that is how we wrap this one up.
Yeah.
It's always all about your career. Good to know, Shannon. Keep your relationship analogies ready in case you need them later, because we will hit more Tom Brady later on in the show.
No mercy.
Welcome back to Undisputed. After dealing DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals, the Texans are now acquiring receiver Brandon Cooks from the Rams for a second-round draft pick. So, Shannon, in your opinion, who won the trade?
Actually, who I really think won the trade is Arizona, because they got rid of a running back they didn't want, and they got a top 3 receiver in return. But Skip, if I'm going to say between the Texans and the Rams, probably the Rams, Skip, because you get a second-round pick, and then Brandon Cook has been good, but he has issues with concussions. And so, Skip, the Rams they went for it. And the last couple of years, Skip, we see them shell out big dollars for Todd Gurley. They shelled out big dollars for Aaron Donald, and Jared Goff got paid. Remember they made the trade for Dante Fowler. They signed Clay Matthews. They went and got Aqib Talib a couple of years ago. They traded for Jalen Ramsey. Skip, when you pay your top players top dollar, and nobody is willing to give you a discount, this is what's going to happen. Even if they had won the Super Bowl, they were going to have to break this thing up, but at least you got a Super Bowl to show for it. Well, unfortunately, they only have a Super Bowl appearance to show for this. Skip, for the money that they're paying, Brandon Cooks and the receiver they got from the Cowboys, Cobb, that was the money they could have gave to D-Hop. Randall Cobb. The money they're paying him, and plus you take on $11 million for David Johnson. You got Duke Johnson. You got Carlos Hyde. So let me get, you would rather have Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb, as opposed to D-Hop? D-Hop is a top 3, by any metric, Pro Football Focus or whomever else you want to use, he's a top 3 receiver. Julio, Mike Thomas, and D-Hop. Now, your order, we can debate that another day in time, Skip, but he's a top 3 receiver. And you were unwilling, it's going to cost you $39 million over the next 2 years for Brandon Cooks and Randall Cobb. You don't think a D-Hop is worth $39 million over those 2 years. So for me, Skip, I'm gonna go with the Rams. I still don't believe Bill O'Brien, the general manager, because that's his role also. He served dual roles. He's doing a terrible job for Bill O'Brien, the head coach.
I'm going to say that the Texans won this trade, but more specifically that Deshaun Watson won this trade. And yet I am completely with you. Obviously, what happened with DeAndre Hopkins was the all-time abomination trade. It was spite-fueled because Bill O'Brien got sideways with DeAndre. I believe it became personal between the two. He tried to dismiss it as, well, he just wanted more money. No, I think it got real personal. And Bill O'Brien, the GM and coach, said, I'm going to get rid of that guy. And if I have to give him away, I'll just give him away. And he did. And he took on a David Johnson, who we all know in 2016, which is now 4 years ago, he was first-team All-Pro. Since then, in the last 3 seasons, it took 3 seasons for David Johnson to pile up enough stats to equal what he did in 2016. And they still owe him a ton of money. It's 10.2 next year, and then about $8 million the next year. So Bill O'Brien thinks that he can salvage the career of David Johnson. I don't. DeAndre Hopkins is going to put Kyler and the Arizona Cardinals on the map. I think they're going to be a wild card team in large part because of DeAndre and the new connection that he will provide for a Kyler who's going to take a Mahomes-like jump in year 2, a Lamar Jackson-like jump in year 2. And he was obviously an above-average quarterback last year. So I'm with you on that, Shannon. But given the abomination that was that trade, I do like it for Deshaun's sake that then Bill O'Brien tried to salvage his team by saying, okay, I'll go find somebody else for Deshaun. That somebody has concussion issues. We know that he's had 5 concussions in 6 years. We know he had a concussion early in the second quarter of that abomination of a Super Bowl in which Belichick blew it and let Nick Foles obviously be Super Bowl MVP and hang 41 points on the Patriots. And Brady, even without Brandon Cooks, remember, he didn't have Brandon Cooks for 3 quarters, and he still threw for a playoff record 505 and put up 33 points in a losing cause, the most points ever scored by a Super Bowl loser. But he did so without Brandon. And then last year, Brandon in LA with the Rams had 2 concussions that cost him a couple of games. Is that going to haunt him going forward? Maybe. But remember, he's only 26, and Houston will only owe him $8 million, even though he's going to count. His cap hit is 16.8, and the Rams are going to eat like $22 million in dead money next year. That's on them. It's not on the Texans. And if the Texans don't like what they see, if he does have concussion issues, they do have an out in the contract where they can cut bait without cost after this next season. But I do like the fact that at only 26, Brandon Cooks can still fly. Remember, he ran 4.33 at the combine coming out of Oregon State. And again, now at least Deshaun has somebody, and they did go overpay for Randall Cobb, who had a terrific year last year, making $5 million in Dallas. Now he makes guaranteed $9 million over the next 3 years in Houston. Way overpaid. But at least Deshaun's got him. He's got Brandon. He's got William Fuller. He still has Kenny Stills. So those 4, not bad. I'm not saying they're Tampa Bay's receivers, but they're not bad. And so I'm happy for Deshaun. I root for Deshaun. I'm not a Bill O'Brien fan. I was not a fan of Bill O'Brien long before the world became not a fan of Bill O'Brien. I never liked him. I can't argue with the fact that they've won that division for the last 5 years. It's the most winnable, or it has been the most winnable division in football. But so I can't condemn him as a coach, but as a GM, he's disastrous. But at least he went out and tried to salvage something in Brandon Cooks. And you have to ask, well, is Brandon Cooks better right now than whoever they could draft? Yeah, he probably is, if his concussion syndrome doesn't keep him out of games. So in the end, yeah, go ahead.
No, but you will see, I need to give people context, because that's what I do. I like to provide context. Let me explain to the people at home why Skip Bayless had it out for Bill O'Brien from a long, long time ago, because he's the only coach to ream Tom Brady on the sideline. He say, sit your butt down, Tom. And Skip Bayless has had it in for that man since, because Tom Brady was picking on little one Tyquan Underwood, who deserved better treatment than that. And Bill O'Brien said, Tommy, no, you're not going to do that. I'm the coach. Sit your $5 tail down before I make change for you. And that's what he did. And you had it in from that. But Skip, if you look at what the Houston Texans, they don't have a first rounder because they gave that up for Larry Tunsil. Now they don't have a second rounder because they traded that for Brandon Cooks. Now, they did get, I think they might have 2 third-rounders because they got one from Seattle for Jadeveon Clowney. And so they might have 2 because they have their own. And now they have maybe 2 forwards. But Skip, now it's being reported that they might be anywhere between 8 and 12 receivers go in the first 2 rounds. Skip, you can get quality at that position in this draft. So for me, look, I get it. The Rams was in salary cap hell. Skip, you mentioned they're moving in a building that's going to be somewhere between $3 and $5 billion. That salary cap, and even billionaires in a time like this, Skip, they looking at their pocket, they squeezing their pockets too. So if you know of a billionaire squeezing his pocket, the kind of effect that it's having on normal people, Skip. And so for me, I still believe the Rams won because they get a second, because the Rams don't have a first rounder. They gave that up for Jalen Ramsey, Skip. Remember, they traded for Jalen Ramsey last year. So they gave up their first rounder. So they're trying to, they still have Cooper Kupp. You mentioned they have Robert Wood. I think Everett, the tight end. So they still have some quality pieces. Don't know what they're going to do at running back. Defensively, look, you got Aaron Donald on the front end. They bring Brockers back, Skip. You got Jalen Ramsey on the back end. You should be pretty formidable on the defensive side of the football. Now, we're going to see how good, he was labeled as a genius, Skip, for 2 to 3 years, Sean McVay. We're going to see, is he still advancing? Is he still smart as people said that he was?
Yeah, and Jared Goff reportedly loves Josh Reynolds. I'll see about that. I'm with you. I believe the Rams are in decline. Quick point of order about Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator in New England. On that day, and I believe it was at Washington, Tyquan Underwood ran the wrong route in the red zone across the back of the end zone. And Tom Brady waited until they got to the bench to let the young receiver know that he ran the wrong route. The young receiver pushed back against Tom Brady, and Brady did not like it, and he was reading him the riot act when Bill O'Brien got involved to try to break it up. All I know is that Tyquan Underwood lasted only 2 more games and got cut. So who was in the right there? I think the GOAT was in the right there. And the GOAT had every right to tell a kid who was going to get cut that he ran the wrong route. Thank you very much.
Whoa. Guess what? Now I can insert myself. I like to think that I can equate myself to Tyquan Underwood, one Shannon Sharpe, young Shannon Sharpe. I'm sure there are times in the game that I ran the wrong route. John Elway, who had gone to Super Bowl, who is very, very accomplished, he never read me the riot act. Because someone only plays a year or two, that's still a human being. That man got a mom, a dad, he got sisters, a brother. You don't know, and you gonna be openly disrespectful? Bill O'Brien read him the riot act on the sideline, and Tom Brady bucked back. Bill O'Brien said, I'm the coach here. I do the corrections, not you, Tom. Let's not forget, coach, player. You're the exact same thing. You're more accomplished than Tyquan Underwood, but you're the exact same thing as Tyquan Underwood, a player. So let's not get it twisted, Tommy.
So Shannon Sharpe just put himself in the same sentence with Tyquan Underwood. Oh, so now we've gone from comparing ourselves to Tom Brady to sharing the same boat with Tyquan Underwood. Well, that's probably more where you belong, is down in the Tyquan Underwood level, right?
I'm trying to compare situations, not per se. Tyquan Underwood was a rookie. Shannon Sharpe was a rookie, trying to learn the plays. They moved him to a different position. I'm sure, because John was having to tell me the play as they put me in motion for the entire game. I'm sure. But Skip, there's a way that man is a human. You don't have to undress the man publicly. You could say, look, bruh, you ran the wrong route. This is what I needed you to do. But when you come up there and doing all these anthems, these history, see, when T.O. did that, he's team obliterator. Tom Brady does that. He's showing great leadership. Nah, bruh, don't come out there with all these emotions because I got some too. Hey, don't do that.
No, Shannon.
Bill
Tom
O'Brien.
was
I kind of
doing
like
it
Bill O'Brien.
quietly on the bench. It was out of the public eye. It wasn't as they were coming off the field. It wasn't standing up right on the sideline. Tom was doing it quietly while they were sitting on the bench. And only when Tyquan pushed back at Tom Brady did it start to escalate and get a little heated. That's when Bill O'Brien went over there. And my last point on Bill O'Brien is he should... No, wait a second. He should drop to his knees, Bill O'Brien, every night and thank his lucky stars for Tom Brady, because without Tom Brady, nobody would even know who Bill O'Brien is, and Bill O'Brien would not have a head coaching job in the National Football League, and he would not have had a head coaching job at Penn State if not for Tom Brady.
Yes, Skip, that's true. A lot of great quarterbacks. Look how many head coaches Brett Favre got jobs. From Mariucci to Andy Reid to John Gruden to Ray Rose. Yes, Ray Lewis. How many? Rex Ryan, Jack Del Rio, Marvin Lewis, Mike Smith. Yes, Skip, that's how it works. If you're a great player and you coach said players, yes, you're going to get opportunities. Tom Brady is not the first quarterback that's been great, that's got an offensive coordinator or position coach a head job. So stop this notion, because that's what you're trying to do, to make it seem like Tom Brady is the only quarterback or the only great player that's gotten other coaches' head jobs. No. But, Skip, all I'm saying is, who said Taquan ran the wrong route? That's what you said. That's what you said. Ain't nobody else said that. And even if he did run the wrong route, Tom Brady, there's a right and a wrong way to do everything, and that was the wrong way.
Come on, Shannon. If Tom Brady says you ran the wrong route, you ran the wrong route. And in the end, all I'm saying about this trade is I believe Brandon Cooks can be a little better next year for Deshaun Watson than the 57th overall pick in the draft, which is at the bottom of the second round, can be as a rookie receiver for the Houston Texans.
All right, we're leaving it for now because we actually have to talk about some different quarterbacks. I have a feeling you guys might enjoy this one. Is Tua Tagovailoa already a better thrower of the football than Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino? That is next.
No mercy.
As Tua Tagovailoa prepares for the upcoming NFL draft, Trent Dilfer believes that if it wasn't for his hip injury, he'd be the consensus #1 pick. Dilfer said, quote, Tua throws better than Aaron Rodgers and Dan Marino. So, Shannon, Tua is your guy, but these are strong words. Do you agree with this?
Skip, I know Trent very well. I played a year with him in Baltimore, and he came in off the bench, and he led us to a Super Bowl. And even when he wasn't a starter, Skip, he was in his playbook, he was watching film, and he was always asking, Sharpe, why'd you do this, and why'd you run the route like that? Well, let me tell you what I'm thinking. So I know Trent has done his homework. I know he studied and watched a lot of film on all these guys, because that's what he does. He really, you talk about another guy, you talk about Tom Brady loving to watch film. Trent really loves to watch film, although he wasn't the player that Tom Brady is. Skip. But, man, I'm not willing to go there yet, Skip. I mean, Dan Marino and Skip, you talk about in 100-year history, I believe Dan Marino and Aaron Rodgers are the two greatest throwers of the footballs that I've ever seen. Now, Dan was in my era, so I went to Pro Bowls with Dan. I played against Dan. I watched Aaron Rodgers up close at the Super Bowl that they won against the Steelers. I watched him from the sideline for the first half, and then I went up into the box the second half. And that's when I said, he's the best thrower of the football I've ever seen. Having watched Dan throw the football, having watched Aaron Rodgers throw the football, I said Rodgers is the greatest thrower of the football that I've ever seen. And for Trent to say that this kid right now coming out of college is better than both of those guys, Skip, I'm not willing to go there. I do believe had Tua not gotten hurt, he would be the consensus #1 overall pick, Skip, because he can flat out spin it. His accuracy and his ability to anticipate, that's what you need in the pros, because guys are not going to be running scot-free and all that space like they are in college. You're going to have to fit the ball into tight windows, and he can do that as well as anybody that I've seen in a very, very long time. Yes, there are flags, mainly with the hip and the injuries, and we'll talk about that a little later, Skip. But, Skip, he's as good a thrower of the football that I've seen coming out of college in, say, the last decade.
Okay, I'm going to use your favorite word that you always provide here on Undisputed, which is context. My context for Trent Dilfer's remark was in a story I read last night by the Washington Post. It went back through the history of how Trent got to know Tua at Trent's quarterback camp that he runs for all the best high school quarterbacks coming out each year in the summertime. And because of that connection, Tua's father then called Trent, I don't know, maybe a month or so, maybe 6-8 weeks ago, and said, hey, I need you to train my son because he loved you at the camp. And at first Trent said no, because he's the coach of Little Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee, where his son has played. And Trent said, I'm too busy here. And when the father persisted, he said, okay, if you'll send him up here, no social media, no posting pictures every day about we're doing this, that, and the other. Let's do it in secret. That Trent said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm sure Trent did a great job with this kid, getting him the best he can be before this virtual draft that we're about to have. It's not virtual. I mean, it's going to be done by electronics, obviously. So the point is, Trent that was then paid to get Tua ready, and And clearly he's being paid to help sell him going into the draft when a lot of people think he could be damaged goods. So was Trent more prone to overstatement? Yeah, he probably was, because to me, Dan Marino was the greatest thrower of the football ever. I'll never forget a conversation I had with Troy Aikman back in 1994 when I was covering the Cowboys about who has the strongest arm in football. And I said to Troy, it's John Elway. Obviously, Shannon, the guy you caught passes from in Denver.
Yeah.
And Troy said, no, it's not John. It's Marino. And I said, really? He said, oh, Marino has a cannon. Not only did he have a cannon, but he had swagger and panache. He would try any throw at any time. I've never seen anything like what he did in 1984, his second year when he was the MVP of the league and led them to the Super Bowl that they lost to Joe Montana. And obviously, the 49ers were just a better team than the Dolphins at that point. But come on, Trent, you can't compare him to Dan Marino, who was 6 feet 4 inches tall. Even Aaron Rodgers is 6 feet 2 inches tall. Tua is undersized. He's only 6 feet tall. He's barely taller than short to me. He's just like an inch taller, inch and a half taller than Kyler is. So again, I love the quick release, but here's my problem. The release to me, and I'm just watching the TV games, the Tua release is so compact that he has trouble getting that much velocity on it. There's not a lot of mustard on his throws. There's not huge zip on his passes. There's nothing like I saw from Marino or Elway or any of the quarterbacks you'd say had a gun. This kid is accurate. I will give you that. But he also gets a little frenetic in the pocket. He gets a little frantic. And in some of the biggest games, I thought he lost his poise. He unraveled against Georgia in that 2018 SEC championship game. He was 10 of 25 for 164. His QBR was 29 on a scale of 0 to 100, and he got yanked. And then he came back against Clemson and threw 2 more interceptions in the championship game. Remember, Jalen Hurts saved him in the SEC game, but he threw 2 more interceptions against Clemson. They got routed. He had a QBR of 59, barely above average. And then I told you, I carefully watched him against LSU last year, obviously in Tuscaloosa, and he barely completed 50% of his passes. He was 21 of 40, and he missed a lot of throws. He made a lot of throws too, but I keep also reminding you, Tua had, I think, the greatest collection of wide receiver speed and route running I've ever seen on one college football team. I'm not saying they're the biggest, strongest bunch of stud receivers, because there have been some Clemson groups of receivers, as we've seen, that were just all world.
D-Hop and Sammy Watkins.
I'm talking about, thank you. But I'm talking about burner speed, track speed in Ruggs and Devontae Smith, and even to a degree Waddle and obviously Jerry Jeudy, that they can all run routes. It was a pro-style attack, and sometimes that could help Tua look a little better than he should have looked. And there were also games later in his career, again, Rex Ryan is reporting that he had 5 surgeries, and we know about all the injuries, the litany of injuries that he had. He even had a broken nose and a concussion and a broken finger, and he had the 2 ankle surgeries, the tightrope surgeries, and then the career-threatening hip surgery, and I think he had some knee scope. And the problem is, as we got into last year, I thought he started to flinch a little bit in the pocket. I thought he was getting a little antsy and getting rid of the ball a little sooner than he needed to. So my point is, overall, I get what Trent's doing. He's trying to hype him. He's trying to do the job that he's paid to do. But come on, Dan Marino? That's just, even the workout video that I saw yesterday, I didn't see a lot of juice on the ball. I didn't see cannon. I didn't see gun. I'm sorry. I get what he's doing, but that's just laughable to go to Dan Marino.
Yeah. Danny was as good a thrower of the football that we'll ever see. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is going to have something to say about that when his career is all over. Skip, the thing is about Danny's release was so quick and it was so compact, is that having played with him in the Pro Bowl, yes, he could spin the ball, But John was a different animal. John being a right fielder for the Yankees and having played baseball, and I think Danny played some baseball in high school, his arm was just different. And to practice with him early in his career and when in his prime, because I caught John was only like eight years into his career. So I still had him while he was in his, 7, 8 years into his career. So I got him in his prime. So he could spin it for real, throw it. But Danny, the ball just came out so quick. DBs would be right there, Skip, and it's like, he's not going to throw that because he sees me right here. And the receiver has the football running with it. He threw it. Yeah, he threw it. John could throw it, Skip, because he had so much confidence is that you could be in position. If you look at the Skip on the 3rd and 6 in the play that I caught in Pittsburgh that helped us advance to the Super Bowl, the guy's in perfect position. He has his hand here. And by the time he comes down, I got the ball spinning and running. That's how, and he's right there. He sees it. He knows John's going to throw the football. They're playing cover 5. But there was nothing you could do about it. Skip, I love Tua. You know I love Tua. But I'm not willing to go Marino and Aaron Rodgers. Not yet. Not yet.
By the way, I used to read stories that Elway in practice threw it so hard that receivers would constantly get the webbing between their fingers split open. I don't know if that ever happened to you. Did you ever have your webbing split between your fingers where it bled because you were trying to catch the...
That right there, Skip? That right there is going right there. That's what that ball's going to be right there every time. But I tell you what he would do. Now, you try and catch that ball with your chest, and you could hear that. It would sound like somebody hitting a drum. When you try to catch it with your shoulder pads, it would sound, and you got very proficient at catching the ball with your hands because it was going to get cold. And the thing is, the thing that I hated most was warming up with him in the game because now, Skip, his adrenaline is starting to pump. And he doesn't realize how hard he's throwing it. So when I first got to Denver, they would only give you one pair of gloves. Okay, I'm warming up with John. He's ripped my gloves before the game. So I had to learn to gut it up and catch. If you notice, Skip, when I played with him, I caught all my passes in the warm-ups once I got past that with no gloves because he would rip them. And I was only going to get one pair. I wanted the gloves for the game, not for warming up. But once his adrenaline got going, Skip, and if it got late in the ball game, everything was coming. Everything was coming 1,000 miles per hour. So you better get your head around quick and you better get your hands up because there have been times guys were slow getting their hand up, and guess what, Skip? The ball hit them side the head, and they're almost in the middle of the field, and the ball's going out of bounds. That's how hard he threw it. I'm sure he gave a couple of his receivers and running back concussions because he threw the ball so hard and it hit him upside the head.
You know, I just remembered, and I'm sorry if I put you on a spot, but the Sharpe brother with the best hands was obviously the older Sharpe brother named Sterling. He was the one that God gave the hands to, right?
Don't do that, Skip. Don't do that. No. Skip, I'm conceding. I'm in the Hall of Fame, but I'm the second greatest player in my own family. I will concede that. But these hands right here, Skip, this right here, they wasn't going nowhere. If they touch it, it was over. He was a better route runner. He had a little bit more speed. A little bit more.
Okay, I'll give you this. You got great hands, but you got bad opinions, but that's okay.
Okay.
On that note, sorry, Shannon, we're going to break.
No mercy.
When discussing Tom Brady's departure from New England to Tampa, Hall of Famer and beloved member of our Fox family, Terry Bradshaw, said he doesn't see Brady as the greatest of all time. He admitted he's won more Super Bowls than any QB, but is not better than the likes of Roger Staubach, Dan Marino, or Joe Montana. So, Shannon, do you believe that Brady is the greatest of all time?
Skip, I think it's a 2-horse race. I really do. Skip, but let me start with Terry. Skip, we are very, very protective of the era in which we played in. It's hard for me to believe because I played it with Elway and Marino and Montana and Bruce Smith and Emmitt Smith and Dion and all yada, yada, yada. So, Skip, I don't like saying someone from the 80s or the two after I was done in 2010s and all that was better than, because I'm very protective of that era. I played in that era. I know what these guys are capable of doing. But it's hard for me, and I get it. If Terry would have said, look, I don't like saying anybody's the greatest, and left it at that, okay, I'd have been cool with that. But it's hard to say guys that's never won Super Bowls are better than a guy that has 6, no matter what you think about him personally. And I don't know if Terry has any personal feelings, likes or dislikes against him, but I believe it's a 2-horse race. Now, you look at Joe, Skip. Joe is 4-0 in Super Bowls, 3 MVPs, and Super Bowl MVPs. He's 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions. Now, when you're looking at it, are we looking at the guy that's won the most Super Bowls? Because you told me the reason why you say Michael Jordan is the GOAT is like in all those finals, he didn't lose. Well, Tom has 3 losses on his resume. Now, Joe has signature moments too. The catch, we still talk about the catch. I don't know if you were at that game when you watched that, because I know it hurt a little more because it happened against the Cowboys. And one of the clutchest drives in Super Bowl history is the drive that he had against the Bengals, Skip. I think it was in Miami, and that he goes 92 yards and a field goal wasn't going to do it. As a matter of fact, the play was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 200 X slant. I know that's the West Coast offense. Hit John Taylor on the backside on the slant route for the game-winning touchdown. Skip, look. And who knows what he could have been, Joe, had he not, because Skip, 91-92, he had won back-to-back MVPs in 89 and 90. He misses the large part of 91 and 92 with an elbow injury. Steve Young steps in with MVP, and Skip, we know how it ends after that. So who knows what he would have done. But the numbers are not going to be comparable because they didn't throw the ball kind of like they do now. For me, Skip, I'm not going. If someone says Tom Brady is the GOAT of quarterbacks, Skip, I'm not going to fight with them like I fight with you when you say somebody's better than GOAT James. But if you say Montana, I'll go with that. If you say Brady, all right, I guess 6 and 9 tries with all he's accomplished, the regular season MVPs, the 30-plus playoff wins. Skip, I'm not going to fight you, but I will fight you if you say somebody better than GOAT James, that is.
I told you we're not talking about LeBron on today's show. We're talking about real GOATs, not phony GOATs. So you just broke the rule that I set at the top of this show. So you are docked. You can't talk for the next 4 minutes because you're fined 1 minute. I get to talk an extra minute here. Let me say this about the great Terry Bradshaw. I love him. I have known him forever. And I know a lot of our younger viewers only know Terry as sort of funny old Uncle Terry on Fox, talking football. Let me tell all the kids out there, Terry Bradshaw was a flat-out, all-time stud of a quarterback in the National Football League. He went to 4 Super Bowls and won all 4 of them. He led what, to me, was the greatest NFL team in history, the 1978 Pittsburgh Steelers. They had 5 Hall of Famers on offense and 5 on defense and 2 more Pro Bowlers who were not Hall of Famers. That's an impossible embarrassment of riches on one team. But guess who was the MVP regular season 1978? Terry Bradshaw. Guess who was the Super Bowl MVP of Super Bowl 13 against my Dallas Cowboys? Pittsburgh won 35-31 in the all-time greatest shootout in Super Bowl history, thanks to the MVP, Terry Bradshaw. 6'2", 220, 225, athlete, stud. And what Terry is saying, I appreciated, because he's saying, if you're talking about the most gifted quarterbacks ever, what was the first name out of his mouth? My all-time favorite quarterback as a kid growing up, Roger Staubach. I got to know him in Dallas. I covered him. I got to play a lot of basketball against Roger in the off seasons. I know him inside and out, and he was an all-time stud athlete with a great arm. Dan Fouts was one of the great passers in the history of the game. Dan Marino, we just talked about, greatest thrower of the football ever. Joe Montana was an all-time great combination of accuracy and athletic elusivity. He could really move and groove in the pocket, and he could escape and hurt you with his legs in ways Tom Brady never thought about doing. But here's my issue with this whole premise. I feel like, to your point, Shannon, that a lot of older players just, they can't put their arm around Tom Brady. There's something about Tom Brady they can't give in to. There's something about Brady, he doesn't speak the right language for them. He's not the typical, prototypical stud quarterback. He doesn't carry himself the way all these other quarterbacks did in days gone by. There's something weird, different about Tom. As I always tell you, he can be cliche-ridden. He can be lame, jokey on IG. He can be the nerdy dad next door all too often. He doesn't fit the mold of the classic franchise quarterback. And yet, if you look at what he's done on the highest level more consistently than anybody by far, is he's played the position better than any of those other quarterbacks ever played it consistently on the biggest stages in the sport. Even Montana didn't go to 9 Super Bowls. He went to 4, and he was great in those 4. He probably should have won all 4 MVPs, but in the game you brought up against Cincinnati, they gave it early with 2 minutes to go to Jerry Rice because he had 200-plus receiving yards in that game. But Joe hit John Taylor with the game winner. He should have been the MVP. But the point, Shannon, about Tom Brady is no one has ever played the position better, been more effective, especially in the clutch, over an expanse of 20 years the way Brady has. He's also something that nobody ever brings up from the older quarterbacks. He's the greatest leader in the history of the game. I'm sorry, he just was. And Ray Lewis is up there, and Shannon Sharpe is up in that conversation. But Tom did it against Bill Belichick. He had to reset the culture and try to keep that team together with a dictator, a tyrant of a head coach. And Tom led that locker room for 20 years. And he's the one who set the tone and the culture that allowed Belichick to thrive doing what he did best, which was coach defense, and then Tom to do what he did best, which is make plays in the clutch in AFC championship games and Super Bowls. It's just extraordinary that he has 6 rings with 6 fourth quarter come from behind game-winning drives. That's impossibly great. And Shannon, when you look at the yards that he threw for in the AFC championship game against Jacksonville when he split his hand open in the week before the game, or the 3 3rd and 10s he converted at Kansas City against Mahomes' team, or 124 yards passing against the Legion of Boom in the 4th quarter of the Seattle Super Bowl comeback, or 246 yards passing in the 4th quarter in overtime against Atlanta in that epic comeback, or you could say epic failure by Atlanta. But still, it's hard to throw for 246 in the 4th quarter in overtime. And Terry Bradshaw was all-time clutch against my Cowboys in Super Bowl 13 and against the Rams in Super Bowl 14. Look at the 2 big 3rd down conversions he had in that come-from-behind game. But he didn't do it in 9 Super Bowls the way Tom Brady has. It's just, there's something missing here, and I'm not going to call it Brady hate. It's just sort of Brady dislike. And I think it starts to border on a little bit of jealousy and a little bit of resentment because all these quarterbacks Terry brought up, including Terry, had to stop prematurely. Terry had to quit at age 35, and now Brady's talking about playing to 48. Roger only played 10 years and had to stop because of concussions. And Dan Fouts was gone at 38, and Joe Montana at 38. You know how it goes. That's just life in football, and I think there's some resentment. Right. This guy is still going. And he's first it was 45, and now Connor's reporting that Brady's making noise about playing till he's 48. Well, it inspires a little resentment on their part, and after a while, it wears on me that they can't give in to Tom Brady.
Skip, I think the thing is that they're not resentful of Brady. They're resentful of the rules change that have been implemented that has protected Tom Brady and these other quarterbacks because Skip, you remember Cleveland when Turkey Jones slammed Terry Bradshaw on his neck and almost broke his neck. The way they played in Terry and Dan's and Roger days is even different, was more violent, more physical than when they played. And when I came into the 90s, it was still a physical game. It was still trying to knock somebody's block off, still trying to impose your will on someone to break that man. Well, now the rules have been implemented, Skip, and they're like, hell, I can put up those numbers if you protected me like they protect him. I can put up those numbers if you protected my receivers like you protect his. So, Skip, I think the thing is that when you look at it, they're like, I had just as much ability as Tom Brady, but because the rules were so constricted that there was none of this, quarterback, Skip. There was no late hit on the quarterback. There was no going below the knee and hitting somebody. You could do all that. There was no defensive receiver. There was no helmet-to-helmet contact. That's why these guys retired early, Skip. And it's like, well, hold on. I don't feel Terry gets the credit that he deserves because, as you mentioned, he had his centers in the Hall of Fame, his 2 receivers, and his running back. And then you got 5 guys on the defensive side that's in the Hall of Fame. L.C. Greenwood could easily be in the Hall of Fame, head coach and the owner. So you got like 12, 13 guys that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame off one team. So they were like, well, hell, Terry, with all that, you should have won 4 Super Bowls. So I don't think he gets the credit that he deserves because he played with other great players. And maybe Tom gets a little more credit than maybe he deserves because when you look at it, Randy Moss and Gronk are the only 2 Hall of Famers that he's going to have on the offensive side of the football, and they didn't intersect. So for me, Skip, it's look. Like I said, I'm not gonna fight you. If somebody says Tom Brady the GOAT, okay, fine. But you better not say that in the NBA, because you already know who the GOAT is, Skip Bayless. It happened to be, I got it lined up across the back. Lined up.
Okay. I'm not going to go there. We're talking about the National Football League. And before I leave this be, my favorite all-time quarterback, Roger Staubach, if he had Brady's rules and, again, been in Brady's situation, do I think he could have done what Tom did for 20 years? I do. But remember, Roger went to Vietnam and served. Remember, he was at the Naval Academy, won the Heisman there. So he did his Vietnam hitch. He didn't even start in pro football until he was 28. He had to stop prematurely at 38 because the doctor told him, you're going to have big issues going forward if you try another year of this, because he was getting his bell rung because, to your point, which is a great point, there were no rules, basically. It was open season on the quarterback. Yeah. So the point is, I'm with you. Tom Brady did what Aaron Rodgers has often done. Tom Brady last year led this whole league in throwaways. You don't like what you see, you don't like the pressure coming, just throw it in the third row. And yet, it's the rule change that happened after the 2008 season. It was the Bernard Pollard rule, because remember, Pollard hit Brady in the planted left leg in the opener of the 2008 season. It was the Texans at Foxborough and wrecked Brady's knee, ACL and MCL. And because of that, because they lost a meal ticket, the NFL did, Tom Brady for a whole year, they said, you can't do that anymore. And they continue to modify the rules to further protect the meal tickets that are the quarterbacks. So I'm with you. Right. Tom's figured out, hey, if you can just give me a little bit of time, I can speed read with the best of them. So I can still speed read. And if you give me 4 good receivers in Tampa, I'll find somebody open like that. I'll get rid of the ball. We can go empty in the backfield. I don't even need a personal protector back there with me. I'll just get somebody. If you send 5 receivers out in the pattern, I'll find somebody open within 5 yards in 1.8 seconds, and I'll get rid of the ball. And that means, well, why can't I play until I'm 48? And that inspires some resentment. So go ahead.
You're absolutely right, Skip. If you remember, Skip, that's how Kurt Warner got his start. Because Rodney Harrison hit Trent Green the very play in 1999 and blew his knee out. It wasn't until a full year after, it was like almost a decade later. This happened in 99. They changed the rules in 2009 because Tom got hurt in 2008. They changed the rules. So basically 10, 11 years later, they instituted no more below the waist on the quarterback. And so, and I think that has a lot to do with it, Skip, because guys are saying it's kind of like the Autobahn. Skip, I can go as fast as I want to. There is no speed limit. Well, the quarterback said, well, hell, if you're going to get protected like that, yes, he's going to play. Yes, he's going to have number. And yes, if you're good, because these guys that he mentioned, Skip, they're great. They're in the Hall of Fame. He believes they could have done that, could have played longer, would have had more opportunity to possibly get to a Super Bowl if they were protected like the receiver and the quarterback is in today's game. But I'm not willing to say, Skip, all these guys are just better than Tom. I believe it's a two-man race. It's Joe and it's Tom Brady. So I'm not going to fight you. If you say Tom, okay. Well, hey, I caught passes. Well, I didn't catch any passes from Tom, but I think I caught one from Joe. So I can say I caught passes from the GOATs. And my guy, I ain't taking my guy. And I told Joe this. Joe was on my radio show, Skip, when I was doing Sirius Satellite Radio. And they was talking about, I was like, Joe, I love you. Playing the Pro Bowl with you, but I'm not taking you over 7. 7 got me to the Hall of Fame and got me some jewelry. I'm sorry, Joe. You ain't get me no jewelry, and you didn't get me to the Hall.
Okay, bottom line to this discussion, I'm so happy we had the opportunity to point out Terry Bradshaw was a great quarterback. Terry Bradshaw has 2 Super Bowl MVPs, and Terry Bradshaw, I pay homage to you. I bow down to you today. You beat Roger Staubach twice in Super Bowls. Way to go, Terry.
Skip, didn't he have the world record in the javelin or something?
So wasn't
Terry a world-class javelin thrower?
I believe so.
I think he was, Skip.
Great athlete, yeah.
What can't Terry do? Honestly, he's an actor, he's a performer, he's amazing on our shows. Just lucky to have him in the Fox family. But Shannon, I actually want to talk to you a little bit more about your guy, Patrick Mahomes. We haven't mentioned him yet today. So he's taking his trick throws to a new level. And we have video to show you. That's next on Undisputed.
No mercy.
All right, guys, get this. Patrick Mahomes released a highlight video of himself working out that was also mixed with some of his famous plays in his short career. Some of the plays included his no-look passes and the touchdown scramble against the Titans in the playoffs. So, Shannon, this is your guy. Do you like Mahomes releasing this video? How do you feel about it?
It doesn't bother me because sometimes I don't think people knows what goes into when a guy does something on the field. A majority of the time, I would say 95% of the time, they practice said play that you see on the field. There's no way Patrick Mahomes goes into a ball game and attempts to do something that he hasn't practiced. That's why you practice. Therefore, when it becomes second nature when you get into the game. Now, I know Skip doesn't like that, but the man has perfected it. I mean, how he can look to the right and be throwing the ball and throw it on the money. Skip, look, I know you don't like these hype videos, but they don't bother me. It just goes to show you that, look, guys, I know we might be in a quarantine. We're dealing with a pandemic and everything is locked down, but I'm still putting in work because I believe that we're going to have an NFL season, and I'm going to pick right up where I left off. They're going to be I believe they will be the favorite to get to and win the Super Bowl again. And it's been one reason and one reason only. Patrick Mahomes, there is no doubt, is the best quarterback in football. He's the best player in football. And they're going to be to deal with for the foreseeable future. So I don't have a problem with it. They need to have me talking in the background. But other than that, it's cool.
Oh, so you're auditioning now? You're campaigning that you should be the MC of his hype videos from here on? Oh, great.
Yeah, I should be doing the voiceover. You know how they have the narration, somebody like the football life, and the guys talking in the background. That should be me talking about my homeboy.
Yeah, like Liev Schreiber on all the hard knocks, and Liev's great on Ray Donovan, and I hope they bring it back. But the point is, I am always increasingly suspicious of a rising star who has to keep telling you how great he is. I thought this hype video was a little beneath the dignity of a kid who just won the Super Bowl. Now, the point was, in the Super Bowl, I thought he was pretty ordinary. Again, to the victor go the spoils, but really, Were you that great, Patrick Mahomes, in the Super Bowl? Were you revolutionary in the Super Bowl? Did you complete 2 or 3 no-look passes in the Super Bowl? No, you did not. Actually, you threw 2 interceptions late in the Super Bowl, and actually, your QBR was only 61.6, which on a scale of 0 to 100 is just barely above average. And actually, you threw for only 286 yards, which is not exactly Mahomes-esque sort of passing numbers. And actually, Patrick, the play of the game was 3rd and 15 from your 35, and that came with 7:13 left in the game. And if you don't get away with what you got away with, you're going to lose that Super Bowl because you were behind at that point, and you're down 20-10. And what did you do, Patrick Mahomes? You had a rusher right in your face, and I guess you did throw that as a no look, but not by design.
Yeah.
You just heaved a pass and a prayer. You just flung it to nobody. You threw it up into the flat where you hoped Tyreek would be. And the truth was, you threw a punt that Tyreek had to actually come back to catch and actually waved for a fair catch because it was so high, he was hoping he wasn't going to get blasted by a DB, so he hoped he could fair catch your pass. That's how lucky that pass was. And if you don't complete that one for 44 yards, I think you're going to lose the Super Bowl. And by the way, speaking of that, there came another play by Jimmy Garoppolo late in that Super Bowl with 1:40 left, in which Emmanuel Sanders, if we could see this, broke wide open. And Jimmy G missed him, just cold missed him. Here it is. And if you don't, Patrick Mahomes, if Jimmy G doesn't miss this throw, all of a sudden they're going to be ahead 27-20, and there's going to be 1.5 minutes left, and maybe you'll come back and win it, or maybe you won't. But that's how close you came to losing a Super Bowl in which you didn't play that great. So don't hype video me off that Super Bowl, because I got to tell you, I'm not yet that impressed.
Well, you should be very impressed. And I know one, Cassius Clay later became Muhammad Ali as a rising superstar, told you how great he was, went out there and backed it up, said I am the greatest, I can't be beat, I'm pretty, I'm handsome. You're not that, he was a bad man. He told you that. That's what he did. Skip Bayless, why do you do that? Now, in the last Super Bowl Tom Brady won, did he play revolutionary? Was he outstanding? No, 0 touchdowns and an interception. But they won the game, and his QBR was under 40. His first Super Bowl, was he revolutionary? No, but they won the game. You said he made the plays when he had to. Did Patrick Mahomes not make the plays when he absolutely had to? Absolutely. Get a man some credit. And he did this at 24. 24-year-old Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah. Did Tom Brady put out a hype video after his first Super Bowl, or his second, or his third, or his fourth, or his fifth? Nope. You know and I know he mostly let his actions speak, his performance speak for him.
Let me ask you a question. By his third year in the league, was Tom Brady thought of as the best quarterback, the best player in football? Absolutely not. You and I both know. Had Tom Brady thrown for 5,000 yards and had a 50-touchdown season? Absolutely not. Had Tom Brady, by his third year, thrown for more touchdowns, more yards than any other quarterback in NFL history? Absolutely not. So stop this, Skip Bayless. It's Tom Brady's first 3 years as a starter. First 3 years in the league. And Patrick Mahomes' first 3 years are not comparable. You know that. So look, Tom Brady, we don't know what Patrick Mahomes is going to be 10 years, 15 years from now. But he's off to an unbelievable start. Tom Brady, we know what he is, what he became. So this notion that Patrick Mahomes is like some chicken feed in his first 3 years and Tom Brady was this mythical being is just not true. Nobody thought Tom Brady would go on to be this. We're going to be disappointed if my homeboy don't go on to be even better than what we've seen the first 3 years. I can see 4, 5 MVPs like Peyton Manning, 4 or 5 Super Bowls, and then we're going to have another discussion. Now, it might be 3
Shannon,
in that conversation for GOATs.
In Tom Brady's first 6 years, he didn't have anywhere near the weapons that Mahomes has had from the start in an offense run and called by Andy Reid that is a bombs away, throw it and throw it and throw it offense. Patrick Mahomes fell right into the heavenly lap of Andy Reid, and I give Andy all the credit for trading up to draft him, but I know he was in the perfect spot to do what he has been able to do. And the kid is gifted. There is no doubt about that. But I don't need to see a hype video. And more important, the audacity of this kid to also include that run that he had late in the first half of the epic comeback or epic collapse that the Titans suffered at Kansas City in the previous playoff game, as you know, with 11 seconds left in the first half. And this put them ahead 21-17. This is the most overrated run in playoff history. I have never in my life, watching pro football or any kind of football, seen more missed tackles or more bad angles on any run. It's only 27 yards. It feels like it's 77 yards because Patrick Mahomes is not very fast. He weighs around 240 pounds. He chugged up the sideline, and it was like the Titans were suddenly playing flag football, reaching for a flag that wasn't there. Down at the goal line, they weren't even trying to get him on the ground. I have no idea. Maybe they just quit because they saw the handwriting on the wall. I don't know what happened, but that was shameful. The missed tackles and bad angles that were taken on Patrick Mahomes. That run should never have happened, and that kid should never include that in his hype video because that doesn't qualify.
Skip, I've never seen a quarterback change hands so many times because he starts with the ball in his right hand because he's right-handed looking to throw a pass. And then he throws the head fake on the linebacker. Then he's on the sideline. He puts the ball to the left. Okay, he's running. He says, you know what? There's a guy that's on my left. I'm going to have to stiff arm him. So he switches the ball back to the right arm. Heisman pulls the guy, spins his way into the end zone, and slams the ball over the end line like Dez Bryant tried to do against the Green Bay Packers. Touchdown, ball game.
All I know, Shannon, is I got to get a new TV because I saw something very different than you saw. But up there in your palatial estate in Bel Air, I know you've got the greatest TVs ever made, the latest TVs ever made. I need to start coming up to your palatial estate to watch these games because maybe I'd see something different that I didn't see in that run.
Just picturing Shannon with all these lovely TVs surrounding him for all of his viewing pleasure. We actually have to talk about a different guy that Shannon seems to be a big fan of, and that is Tua. But one former NFL GM thinks drafting Tua in the top 10 would be irresponsible. Skip and Shannon weigh in next.
No mercy.
Despite releasing workout videos, guys, there is still concern over Tua Tagovailoa's durability heading into the draft. Former NFL exec Mike Tannenbaum said it would be, quote, irresponsible for a team to draft Tua in the top 10. So, Shannon, I start with you. Does he have a point?
Nope. Guess what, Skip? The only reason that Miami is in position to draft Tua is because why, Skip? Because they played it safe with Drew Brees. They had an opportunity to sign Drew Brees. They chose a guy in Dante Culpepper who had medical issues, but it wasn't with his shoulder, it was with his knee. So now they find themselves in this situation, still looking for a quarterback 20 years after Dan Marino last played a snap for the Dolphins. Skip, safe picks don't win you Super Bowl when you're drafted in the first round. Skip, you just mentioned it the segment before. What did Andy Reid do? Move up 17 spots to get my homeboy. Was there not risk involved in that, Skip? Absolutely. If I'm not mistaken, didn't Houston Texans move up to get Deshaun Watson? There's risk in that. Skip, there's risk. Sure, I'm sure everybody would like to sit back and say, you know what? I want a pick like Elway, Manning, or Luck. A guy that started for 3-4 years, Stayed the whole time in college. No flags, no medical. John had torn his ACL in college, so he was playing without an ACL his whole career. So he tore that, never got it replaced, Skip. But there's risk involved. I mean, what was the risk when you selected Vernon Golston, Skip? That's still a top 5 bust in NFL history. Did Mike Tannenbaum select him? What about old Quentin Koppel? Skip, under Mike Tannenbaum, the Dolphins had one winning season. Because let me tell you what happens, Skip Bayless. When you in professional sports and you play basketball, football, baseball, you're either a player or you're a general manager. When you make mistakes, guess what you become, Skip? An analyst. That's what you become when you make mistakes, an analyst. You're no longer in the position of putting a team together. You're talking about what teams shouldn't do. No, you better take Tua. If you don't take Tua, you're going to regret it.
Okay, back to your opening point about Drew Brees. I saw Drew play live when he was at Purdue, and I followed him closely at Purdue. And to my knowledge, he was pretty injury-free at Purdue in college. He had a shoulder injury that he suffered at San Diego, as you know. And the Dolphins, I believe Saban was in charge at that point, Nick Saban.
He was.
Clear him, and you know the rest of the story. So the point is, it was just one injury, and he did not have an injury history. Now, back to Mike Tannenbaum. To me, I was surprised that Tannenbaum stopped at top 10. To me, in good conscience, you can't take Tua in the top 20 of the first round because of a horrifying college injury history. It's not just here and there, it's everywhere. It's Rex Ryan reporting on ESPN that he's had 5 surgeries. It's concussion, it's broken nose, it's broken finger on his throwing hand, it's pull quad, it was knee that probably required a scope that we never heard about. It's 2 ankle surgeries called tightrope surgeries, and then it's a hip injury that required surgery that could have been career-threatening. The doctors that Tua has been able to go to have cleared him. But again, we're in a situation right now, obviously because of our pandemic that we're all fighting, in which no team can get a firsthand objective physical on Tua. So you are literally whistling through the graveyard. You're shooting into the dark because you have no idea about how healthy he is. And Shannon, even if he's healthy right now, how do you know he's going to stay healthy for very long? Because the history would scream to you, something's going to go wrong. He's not the biggest man. He's a great kid. He seemed like a great leader at Alabama. But again, at 6 feet tall, every time he took any kind of a shot, he got hurt. He is what the old Cowboy teams I covered back in the 80s called brittle. He's eggshells. He's what you call fragile. He's what you call injury prone. So again, to me, even where you want to take Tua is in the second round on a flyer, the way the Cowboys took Jalen Smith when it looked like his knee was wrecked at Notre Dame in his last college game, or when you took Randy Gregory because he was a drug risk at that point. That's where you take a flyer. But if you're going to take him with the 5th overall pick, good luck, because buyer beware.
Skip, unless you Ray Lewis or Lawrence Taylor, linebackers don't win you Super Bowls. Quarterbacks do. And Jalen Smith has come back and played well. Randy Gregory had some red flags and come back and played well. But they're not game changers. They're not life changers. That guy is a life changer. I believe he can be a life changer. And you don't pass up this opportunity, Skip. You said quarterbacks are the most important, the most valuable position in all of pro sports. You bet if you get an opportunity, and plus, Skip, they got 3 first-rounders. So if they make a mistake here, you got 2 more, and you got 2 next year. So you're gonna be fine. I'm not.
Okay, but
if
Shannon,
I'm the Dolphins, yes.
Remember, there have been numerous reports that the Dolphins actually favor Joe Burrow. So if I'm the Dolphins, I would take my 3 first-round picks I have, including number 5, and next year's first-rounder. And if I had to throw in a 2, I'd throw in a 2 to say Cincinnati with the number 1 pick. Let us move from 5 up to 1. Let us take Joe Burrow, number 1, and then you can have 5 and you can restock your cupboard with the 2 other first-round picks and next year's first and maybe this year's second. That's what I would do.
Man, Mike Brown don't want to pay all them first-round picks, all that money. Cheap as he is, he want 1 guy he has to pay money to. He ain't trying to pay 5 guys. Skip, you know Mike Brown cheap. But Skip, here's the thing. Who's to say that Joe Burrow is not going to get hurt? Or Herbert is not going to get hurt? You playing professional football, there's a great risk you can get hurt. Now, I understand, Skip, that some guys are injury-prone in college and they get to the NFL and they don't have anything. Some guys were healthy as a horse in college and they can't stay healthy in the NFL. Man, this is a violent game. This is not a contact. This is a collision sport. And you're running the men at a high rate of speed. I'm taking Tua, and I'm not looking back.
And I'm sorry. History tells you the odds are stacked against Tua staying healthy in the National Football League.
Okay.
All right, I'm stopping you guys there because I want to talk about this. The Giants may have just thrown some shade at Odell Beckham Jr. We will dive into the latest next.
No mercy.
Welcome back to Undisputed. The Giants released an informal Twitter poll asking their fans to weigh in and select their all-time favorite Giants receiver. But you know who wasn't on the list? Odell Beckham Jr., even though OBJ ranked 2nd in team history in yards and 4th in receptions and touchdowns. So, Shannon, do you have a problem with the way the Giants are handling Odell?
Skip, this is so petty. It's hard for me to believe that they got Sterling Shepard, Victor Cruz, Hakeem Nicks in front of him. Okay, you want Amani Toomer and Plexico because they won Super Bowls. I get it. I get all that. But come on. Skip, I mean, where's Homer Jones? I mean, people don't realize. I know you know who Homer Jones is, who's credited for the spike. But he and Bob Hayes were the 2 fastest men in football. And he's not on this list. So what are we just going like, if you don't leave on good terms, you can't be on this list. Odell is the best receiver. Skip, stop this.
Shannon, I'm so with you because I never thought I would see the day that the New York Football Giants, a cornerstone NFL franchise, would stoop to this level of pettiness. This is the Mara family, the Tisch family, and you're trying to do this. You're trying to scrub Odell from memory, like he didn't even exist as a New York Football Giant. And Shannon, obviously, even after he took the receivers to South Beach for the yacht picture on the week they were going to play on the frozen tundra at Lambeau, and even after that Paris video, they gave him his big mega contract. And the next thing they knew, he was talking about wanting to play in Los Angeles. And I think they never forgave him for that. So they tried to ship him to nowhere, to Cleveland. And now they're trying to actually expunge him from their records. And they're just better than that. Or maybe now they're not. Maybe they've fallen to this level.
We would think, but Sterling Shepard, Skip.
What a way to end the show.
Nicks,
honestly,
boy, this
we
is
will
Eddie
be back
at a highest
Monday
level.
at 10 a.m. Eastern. Keep listening up, Shannon. The Herd is coming up right after us. Have a great weekend at home. Stay safe, everyone.